I'm a bit nervous. I'm a bit nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous. It's so fucking stupid. Why should I be nervous?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, ready?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
We're doing this.
We're doing this.
We're doing this.
We are doing this.
That's 30 minutes of us. We're doing this.
Okay, fuck about this. Go.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Welcome to the Pitcher Podcast. I'm Cody.
And I'm Ian.
And this podcast is kind of a new project that the both of us are going to be working on a bit throughout this coming summer.
So, Cody, why the Pitcher Podcast? I'm sure everyone wants to know.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have been wanting to start a podcast or be part of a podcast for a really long time. I'm quite a verbal processor, and so some of the best conversations or memories or processing that I've done have been either speaking to people or listening to people and just kind of reflecting on thoughts that I've had. And so after coming back to Hong Kong because our school closed because of COVID, I was in quarantine for 2 weeks, and I drink a ton of water, and I had this pitcher on my table that I was using to refill my glass just so many times throughout the day. And I just kind of got thinking that it might be fun to name it the Pitcher Podcast with the alliteration and everything. But thinking about it more deeply, I kind of also thought about the metaphorical filling up our glasses and glasses being half full or half empty. And then also just kind of sharing a pitcher with some of your closest friends, which for me is just a really, really fun idea. So that was kind of what went into the name behind it. As of right now, we're planning on releasing a new episode every week. Some weeks it'll just be me and Ian talking about things, and then sometimes we'll have guests, most of which are going to be our really close friends from high school. So yeah, that's kind of what went into the name behind it.
You're going to ask me about what I think as well?
Yes, I should have remembered to do that. Yeah. So, Ian, what is your kind of vision for the podcast? What are your thoughts about it, and what are you kind of wanting to do with it?
So basically, I've been wanting to start a podcast for quite a long time. As you saw through my voice memos in 2017, I had a podcast concept for a book club, which turned into more of a book review blog that I have now. But I think your ideas of verbal processing resonates pretty strongly with me as well. For people who know me, I like to chat. I'm a chatterbox. Chatterbox. But yeah, a lot of the greatest conversations I've had and the greatest memories I've had have been through conversations with friends, with family, with whomever. And thanks, Cody, for stealing my line. But I did conceptualize the pitcher pod as a pitcher with the boys, just grabbing a pitcher. Everyone's communally sharing it, chatting about whatever, and just enjoying each other's presence, enjoying the conversation at hand, and just spouting a lot of funny, quirky stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So this episode, I think it's a great way to introduce who we are, who Cody is, who I am, and why we decided to do this together, and why we are doing it together, and I guess what you mean to me, and yeah, our sort of relationship or friendship and how that came to be. So I guess we're just gonna briefly run over some introductions. Cody, you go first.
Okay, sure. So I don't really know what to introduce about myself, but I'm Cody. I am 21 years old. I was born in the U.S., but moved to Hong Kong when I was 9, and met Ian kind of soon after that, actually. So we've been friends for a while now. But yeah, I studied international relations at university, and I'm not completely sure what the future is going to hold in terms of the immediate future, but I might be going back to the US or I might be staying in Hong Kong. We'll kind of see what works out. But yeah, do you want to introduce yourself, Ian?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to make it less of a dating profile, Cody. But my name's Ian, for those who know me. I am a recent graduate from the University of Exeter, majoring in law. Born and raised in Hong Kong, a true Hong Kong kid, as we like to say. And I've known Cody since year 5 in primary school.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think that's really all I can say as a brief introduction. So I think we're gonna delve further into who we are individually in another episode. We have a lot of different stories, a lot of contrasting stories, contrasting backgrounds that we would love to explore further down the line. But today, because we're starting this podcast, we want to know more about how we came to know each other, and I'm sure you guys are very interested about that too. But why don't I start by asking you, Cody, what is your first memory of me? And please tread lightly. I know you have your own, fantasy of how we met, Cody, but why don't we hear it from you?
Okay, good question. So treading lightly. Honestly, one of the first memories I had of you was in primary school. And you were in such a cool group in primary school in year 5 and year 6. You were with all of the cool kids. And I just wanted to be in your group so bad. I was a loner and I really wanted to be in the popular group, which was Ian, and a bunch of his friends, and they would all play football, on the breaks, and I would just kind of sit on the sideline and just watch them, and would be really happy if they learned my name or remembered my name. So that's honestly my first memory, seeing Ian with a bunch of the cool kids at the end of primary school.
Okay,
yeah.
I gotta interject. Okay, first of all, shout out to Chris. Chris was definitely in that group.
Chris was definitely in that group.
Football, we'll say that loosely. We were just kicking around a tennis ball. We never had resources to a football, so it was definitely hella lame. We weren't the popular group.
You definitely were.
To my understanding.
You definitely were.
But to add fuel to that fire, I did not remember you on the sidelines. Okay, you make it sound super sad. Okay, I don't know if that was actually the fact. Was that actually the fact? Or
maybe sometimes.
Was that an exaggeration? But I don't know, the earliest memory I've had of Cody, my memory's horrendous. I don't really remember a lot in high school. I mean, in primary school with you, because I didn't really know you that well then. I think definitely my first memory was in the start of high school. Because we're in the same house, right?
Mm-hmm,
Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, our school is split into these house systems where they divide the year. And Cody and I were in the same house. And yeah, I thought he was a very normal dude. Okay, because the thing is, Cody and I didn't actually become this close until maybe late in high school.
Uh-huh.
Year 11?
Yeah,
12,
maybe year 11.
12, year 11.
Which is sophomore year-ish of high school.
Yeah, so before that, I don't know. I knew of Cody, but I didn't really know Cody that well. He was definitely in a different friend circle in high school. I don't know if we should, dig deeper into those premises, but yeah, he was definitely in a different circle from me. But I think the earliest would still be year 8,
mm-hmm.
when you're entering that interesting phase of yours.
Yeah, we'll tread lightly about that.
Yet again, tread lightly.
So yeah, I guess at the beginning of middle school, that would be. We weren't super close in the beginning of middle school, but then as high school came, we got a bit closer. So yeah, I'll go with the question now. Yeah. What is the last project that you remember us working on together?
Not a project per se, but I think 2 of the biggest things that we worked on together was both St. Barnabas and most recently being in sports science together with you in high school.
Mm-hmm.
For St. Barnabas, shout out to Philson, shout out to Haley. Basically, we were doing it was to fulfill our service hours for high school. And we had to go to this charity where we were teaching a bunch of underprivileged kids English, maybe once every week or once every 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
we had to fulfill a quota, and we also felt like making a difference,
That's so great.
And yeah, we decided to band together and partake in this, I guess, initiative. And I think that definitely drew us even closer. Like, at that point, we were already close, but that allowed us to spend a lot more time outside of school.
Yeah, for sure.
And be able to chat and have fun. I'd say St. Barnabas was an interesting, quite, it's not super juicy of a story, but there was like a lot that went on. Like, it was quite crazy.
There definitely was. Fodder for like other podcast episodes in the future for that.
What about you, Cody? What about you?
Those were pretty much the exact ideas that I had in my head too. Most recently, St. Barnabas, I guess, which was in our last 2 years of high school. And then during that time, we were also in a 2-year-long sports science class with each other too. And so we had to do a lot of like collaboration in that. None of it was no, sorry, that's the word I was looking for. None of it was productive at all. Okay. None of our collaboration was productive in sports science. But I guess we had to like work on a bunch of projects and stuff together through that.
Okay, adding on that, we also like had a shit ton of like FaceTime during year 12 and 13. Because first we were doing St. Barnabas. We were in the same chemistry class. Yeah. We're in the same English class. We're in the same, as we said, sports science class. And like during breaks and lunches, we would hang out together as well still. And after school as well.
Yeah.
So on that note, I did want to ask you one question.
Uh-huh.
Amongst our classes, how unproductive they may be, which one was your favorite?
Oh, gosh.
Which one's definitely your favorite?
Of the classes we had together, I think that we had so many classes together in high school. I think honestly, English class that we had together was maybe one of the most fun classes. We had the exact same English class for those 2 years, like I mentioned. And we had kind of a really interesting teacher.
Miss Smith.
Keep her anonymous.
Anonymous.
And we started out the course not the most fondest of her. I think we just it took a lot of getting used to her teaching style and the way that she would run lessons. But honestly, we ended up getting so insanely close with her by the end of it, to the extent that even after we graduated, we watched one of her kind of stand-up comedy shows. It
was like a storytelling session.
Yeah.
Storytelling.
Yeah. So we found out that she does these kind of improv-ish, stand-up-ish, story sharing sessions in Hong Kong, and a group of us in our English class went to one of her performances, and we it was really nice. We went to it, and then we took a photo with her afterwards. But yeah, that was probably the most fun I've had in any class. Was our English class? Yeah. I think with the two of us.
I think I'm gonna tread lightly. I've been saying tread lightly too many times, but I'm gonna tread lightly on the details in case my mother or my father might be listening to this. I'm sure I've worked really hard in English, but let's just say we had a lot of fun.
We did. We totally did. We had so much fun.
You want to ask me something?
Yeah. I have one question.
Oh, God.
Ian's looking at my list of questions right now and cringing.
Oh, God.
But I'll go with this one. What is one time throughout the history of our friendship that you remember being mad, annoyed, or really mad at me?
Okay, that's hard because I don't think I've ever been really mad at you. I don't know if you remember if I was ever mad at you. I'm sure before we've had disagreements, but I doubt we lingered on it at all. But I guess the one I was slightly annoyed at was maybe actually, there's a few things. I think I'm gonna start with something that Cody did that got me in trouble with my parents.
Oh no.
Cody used to love making these like birthday video compilations. Like Cody to me is like,
I know exactly what you're talking
is exactly like that vlogger like David Dobrik. Like Cody has that sort of persona where he like loves to film everything and like stirs a lot of shit half the time. And like I don't know why we weren't subservient, but we were just like kind of bored sometimes, and Cody would just like be like, "Oh, you can do this," and I'll be like, "Okay, sure." I'm sure Rachel out there understands what I'm saying. Gareth too, Philson, Michael. Literally, our entire friend group has been subject to a lot of Cody's manipulations. But basically, and good memories. Okay, I'm just gonna say good memories as well. But Cody has filmed like a lot of these embarrassing, funny, like slightly compromising videos of me, and then I put like he posted on my wall, and then obviously I'm friends with my parents on Facebook, and they saw it, gave me a bit of a telling off regarding like how I'm perceived on social media and employers and all that stuff. Like this was like so early on, but you know, Asian parenting style, and I had to take it down or ask Cody to take it down. Like, okay, social media presence is such a big thing with my parents. Like, even after this, for another birthday post, I remember one of my uni friends posted a video of me like snoozing out at like a lecture as like an embarrassing funny post. It was like a very useless lecture. It was like telling us how to use like a database. So I was like kind of tired, you know, first year vibes. And they gave me a telling off for that as well. So I'm not going to go into details as to what was in the video, but the video was definitely much worse. Had to make a lot of excuses, played off like it was like acting, and we just made all those scenarios up. But yeah, that was something that got me in a bit of trouble. Right. Apart from that, like nothing too specific or nothing too big that I can remember you pissing me off on.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Maybe we'll make like a goal or something for Instagram followers or reviews. If we get like 100 reviews or 100 followers or something, we'll have an episode on what that birthday video had in it. So stay tuned for that.
And also, if we do like a video format thing, I opened a can of worms. No, we're not gonna post it.
Don't make any podcast.
We're definitely not gonna put it on podcast. Okay, what about you? Like any memories that I might have like pissed you off or like embarrassed you in some sort of way?
Right. Yeah, no, this is a funny question because I can't remember specifically being like really, really mad or upset with you. I think that the two of us, just the way that our friendship goes and our relationship dynamic, we just like make fun of each other a lot. And so some of that comes with like one of us getting annoyed at each other for like 5 minutes or something. But I actually, right as you were talking about this, I remembered this flashed into my mind and I wrote it down. But it was after our first summer, or our first year of university, and we were all both back in Hong Kong with all of our friends. And for some reason, I was just so annoyed at what you and some of our other friends were talking about. I can't even remember what the subject of it was right now. It was super like inconsequential, but I remember just being so annoyed and like wanting the conversation to finish. And then that night, I actually had this dream that I punched you in the face.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah. I told you a bit about it, but I woke up at like 5 a.m. and I was so sad, like I wanted to cry.
When
and
was
then
this again?
Summer 17, I think. And I woke up super early in the morning, like startled awake, and I was so upset, and I was like wanting to cry, and then I was so happy when I realized that it was only a dream, because it was so distressing. It was like out of nowhere, I just punched you in the face, and then like kind of our friendship was over. And then I texted you, I remember. I was like, I just had the worst dream. I got upset with you and I punched you in the face, and I just wanted to let you know.
You apologize for your dreams. Like, I'm sorry I punched you in your dreams.
I felt like I had to make some apology because it was so violent. But you were really nice about it, and you were like, oh no, don't worry, like that would never happen. And even if that did happen, like our friendship wouldn't be over. So yeah, that was really comforting, but that was just kind of a funny memory I had related to that.
I think the reason why like we don't get into a lot of fights per se, or like big ones, like we would have disagreements, but that's like it's only natural. I think it's because like we're both very like emotionally intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
We understand like when one's not feeling like
Right.
too well, or like if they're angry or pissed off, and we like are able to hold some sort of like boundaries
Mm-hmm.
in regards to what we say or what we do. So I think that is a major reason why we are able to avoid fighting over all these years. But I do want to go over like it's interesting we talk about these stories, and people might be wondering like how we have this sort of dynamic between us two. Like I want to quickly ask you, how would you like briefly describe who like I am as a person, and then I'll do vice versa.
Okay.
Like just really briefly.
Okay.
Don't hold back.
I definitely will be holding back.
Okay, but hold back.
In case my mom or dad is listening to this. I love you, Mom.
And Dad.
And Dad, sorry. I love you, Dad, too. I think probably suave is the word that first immediately comes to mind. Mostly because you got a haircut like 3 days ago and you're looking real good.
Oh, thanks.
Ian's kind of going for a new hairstyle recently, and I'm a fan of it, but that's not a sentiment held by all of our friends.
Yeah, definitely. It's called jealousy. Jealousy. I'll leave it at that. Jealousy.
Suave, I would say like machismo is something that comes to
What are
mind.
these words? Oh my god.
I'm just thinking of like 1920s, 1930s New York Italian.
Suave machismo.
All jokes aside, all suave and machismo aside, I think that Ian is someone who is very dependable. Like he's always someone that I can rely on, and know that like he will read my messages, or he'll be someone that I can talk to if I'm upset about something, or if I'm like wanting to vent about something, or just wanting to like share some exciting news. And I think that that's something that's really helped our relationship like endure, going to university in different countries, and like probably gonna have to work in different countries in the future and stuff now. So I'd say like really dependable. And then I think someone who just like likes to laugh a lot too. And I think that's also a reason that like the two of our personalities mesh so well together, because we both like to be like really silly and play around and just like laugh at the dumbest of things. And that really helps our friendship. But yeah, how would you describe me?
Time to one up you, just give you like a bunch of positives and like basically I would say I think the first word that comes to mind for me with Cody is like compassionate. He's a very compassionate person, super empathetic, and I'm sure he has like a lot of close friends because of it. Very dependable, as you've said previously as well. He's always there for you. He's always willing to listen, willing to talk. But beyond that, he's one of the funniest guys I know, one of the cheekiest guys I know as well, which makes me love him ever so much. And I think what's overlooked as well, very hardworking, very smart guy as well.
Thank you.
Cody. He's achieved a lot and really shows with the amount of work he's put into it. So I would say a friend, a role model, a mentor. Okay, no.
A parent.
A father. But yeah, I think that's how I'm going to briefly sum Cody up. But also, beyond that, I kind of want to hear how you would describe yourself.
Oh, God.
It's weird, like, self-reflecting on what you might think you are as a person.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's an interesting segue.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so flattered you just made me blush so much.
Wow, that was so monotone, bro. I blushed so much.
I meant it. As for how I describe myself, yeah, that is really, really hard. I would say I guess like wide-eyed all the time, if that makes sense. Like I think that I'm a very curious person, and just by nature of like the university I went to, which we can get into in later episodes. But sometimes I feel like I'm not as like experienced as some of my friends, or like not as knowledgeable about certain like life events as some of my other friends, or just like haven't had as much experience under my belt. And so because of that, I think that I'm always eager to like learn or ask a lot of questions about my friends, and just like hear about their takes on different things or hear about like how they've experienced different things, if that makes sense. So just kind of like a little boy sometimes, like staring at the world with like wide eyes, I guess.
You're just too curious, Cody.
Yeah, I guess maybe just a very
for
curious
knowledge, man.
And then I'd second what Ian said about me in terms of me being just like silly and very playful too. I think sometimes I just get into a very like excited mood. And I've had to tell myself to like tone it down certain times because I can get a bit out of hand. But I just love to, like, especially when I'm comfortable with the people that I have around me, I love to just like be silly and crack jokes and like mess around with people. So yeah, that's something that like gives me a lot of life and makes me really happy. So I guess that's how I'd probably describe myself. But what about you? What would you say?
I would say it's weird describing myself in this way, but I would say like I'm a pretty like funny comedic guy. Like I try to find the comedy in like everything, and I always try to like trim the fat with like a joke or whatever. But beyond that, one thing that I could really describe myself is kind of like a contrarian. Like I'm super argumentative just for the sake of being argumentative.
He definitely is. For anyone listening, he really is.
I think that like ties into a bit of my like stubbornness, which thanks mom and dad, is in my DNA. But yeah, I think I'm very argumentative. Super like I don't know why. Like I just love arguing the other side, being like the devil's advocate on every topic, on every aspect. I would love to say it's because I want to challenge other people's views, but at the same time, I feel like that's partially one aspect of why I always like love to argue or like quote unquote debate with one another. But at the same time, like I guess I always see a lot of different perspectives of a singular issue. That's why I love like challenging the norm as well.
Yeah, for sure.
A bit edgy.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's such a like stark difference between the two of us too. There's like nothing that I hate more than arguing with people. I'm super conflict averse, so I like absolutely
Not
hate
confrontational at all.
Exactly. So I just hate arguing with people. But yeah, no, that's definitely a funny difference between the two of us. One thing that I would add about Ian is that he's also super knowledgeable about kind of like different areas just like of the world. He's very cultured, I would say, and I think he also prides himself on this a tiny bit.
Whoa.
For any of our close friends listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But all jokes aside, he is very knowledgeable and very like well read on a bunch of different things. And I think he has just like a lot of ideas and a lot of wide-ranging issues. Not issues, a wide range of knowledge on different issues. So that's why it can also like be fun to just like live life with Ian, because often he'll just like mention something kind of offhand, but it's like an interesting tangent to go down. So that's something that I'd also add. I guess I'll ask you a question. But kind of going off of that, what are some things that you're into or interested in, but you're kind of embarrassed about?
Okay, this is a hard question because like, okay, another thing that would describe myself is like, I don't embarrass easily. I don't really get embarrassed with anything. Like I'm very upfront with everything I do and everything I like. I think just one thing people don't know a lot about me is like, I'm big into like anime. I think quite a few people know it now, but not a lot of people do.
Right.
I'm not really embarrassed about it. I'm just not very outspoken about it to like random people.
Right.
But that's definitely something. Like I grew up with cartoons, anime, and I think it's just super ingrained into like my personality. And I think that also ties into like your quote unquote compliment about me being cultured, even though it was a backhanded diss as well. But I like to like explore a lot of different things. Like I'm not afraid of watching anything or listening to anything or reading anything that that people might not tend to, I guess, enjoy, or even things that people might quote unquote like frown upon. But I think anime is definitely one thing that a lot of people don't know about me. Beyond that, like I don't know. Like, there's nothing I do that people don't know of or I find embarrassing per se.
Okay.
I'm sure if I ask you first, maybe something might come to mind, but I will ask you first. And then if I do have something, I might add on top.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. One thing that I've gotten into quite recently in the past 2 months has been Dungeons and Dragons. Which I guess I tell myself I'm not embarrassed about, but every time I say Dungeons and Dragons, I cringe a bit. So I guess that's like indicative of me being a tiny bit embarrassed about it.
You're just cringing in excitement, dude.
Maybe. I don't think so. But I started listening to one of these Dungeons and Dragons kind of like gameplay podcasts. It's by a bunch of comedians that I really like. It's called Not Another D&D Podcast, or NADPod for short. And I really, really like it. But I think it just has kind of like nerdy or like weeby kind of rep. But so yeah, I was kind of apprehensive to try it at first. But I found it super, super fun. Just like listening to people talking about like fantasy worlds and then how they interact with it, and like just listening to their role play, especially when they're comedians, is like super, super funny. So sometimes when I'm like really sad or really bored or just like wanting to break up the monotony of staying inside all the time, I'll throw on NADPod and just like listen to that, which I guess, yeah, I'm trying to not be embarrassed about it, but I still think I'm definitely like a bit embarrassed to admit it.
To be honest, I am like slightly curious about D&D. Like I've heard about it. I thought it was like a tabletop game, but I realized it was like more of a storytelling adventure kind of thing. I mean, it's not too weird. It's not too
weird. I've actually wanted to start a D&D campaign for like the last 2 months. So maybe this summer I can pressure Ian and some of our friends into at least trying it out.
I think I'm really probably the only person you could like get
100%. 100%. It might just be you and me playing a campaign together.
I can't see any others. Maybe like Gareth. But Gareth would like...
Maybe Gareth.
He'd get bored halfway through.
Oh, yeah.
And then he'll be like doing something else.
Yeah, or falling asleep.
Michael, no way.
No, there's no
absolutely no way.
But yeah, do we have time for one more question? I think we do, right?
I don't actually know how we're running on time.
Okay, well, let's just go with one more question.
Let's go with one more question.
And we'll see. We can't see the timer right now because we have our recording device under a bunch of pillows to like maximize the audio sound. So we have no idea how long we've been going at this point. But do you want to ask the last question or do you want me to?
Do you have anything on your mind right now, though, that you might want to ask? Because this episode, like, introductions, like, I have a bunch of questions regarding more in-depth into who we are and, like, the introduction aspect. But I think we're saving that for a different episode. And this is more about our relationship. So,
I think we ran out of questions on our list, so we're like trying to spitball right here.
No, the thing is, I didn't realize how many of the questions tied into each other.
Oh, for sure.
Like I had like favorite class and favorite teacher, but I kind of answered it in both in the first question already.
Yeah, definitely.
But okay, I have like one question. I think this is interesting.
Let's hear it.
How do you think our relationship or friendship would look like in the future?
Oh wow. That's
just
so deep.
Okay, I didn't mean it to be deep, but I guess like, what's a good time frame? Like in 10 years' time. 10 years, like we go through a lot in 10 years. Like we're both 21, almost like I'm almost 22. Cody's 22 by the end of this year, and in 10 years we'll be 32. So
that's insane.
How do you think it'll pan out?
Yeah. That's like depressing and exciting to think about too.
Damn, in 10 years we'll be 32. That's
I know,
disgusting.
That's actually really scary.
Oh god.
So I mean, we'll be like working full time by that point. I don't know. I would hope that we are still very, very close, if not closer. And I think I'm hopeful about that too. Just because we've gone through the past 4 years of going to university in different countries. I go to uni in the US, and Ian goes to uni in the UK, and then
went to uni,
graduated from uni in the UK. And then we meet up when we're back in Hong Kong over summers and Christmases. So I know that we probably won't be meeting up in the same place as much, or maybe we could if we're in the same country. But I would hope that we stay in touch and just like via technology and stuff can keep like one of the most important friendships to me going. Not to sound like super wet right now.
Cody.
But yeah, that's just like what I want, and I'd say that I'm like pretty confident that it will happen. And that our not even just you and I, but like our larger high school friend group has been through enough with each other to like continue being super close as time passes. But yeah, I don't know. What about you?
Well, I might say might be like kind of wet as well, but I feel like the thing is, I'm personally not great at like keeping in touch with people. Like, I don't think I make enough effort, but my whole mentality is like, especially with friends and like really close friends is, I don't think we'll ever break that sort of friendship, even if we don't talk for a while. Like,
yeah, for sure.
A lot of my friendships, like even if we don't see each other for maybe a year or half a year, we'd like link up and it feels like we're back to square one. And we're just like we were always friends, and like the chemistry is always going to be there. But Cody's really good at maintaining friendships. He's always good at keeping in contact. So I think that active effort is definitely going to help us in the next 10 years. And hopefully at some point we're going to be like working or living in the same country. Cody is potentially most likely going to be in New York starting
hopefully, yeah.
like late this year. New York is a far-fetched dream of mine, I would say. And that would be sick if we could live in the same city. But I feel like we definitely, I would say we'd stay just as close, because the thing about like Cody and a lot of my close friends from high school, like we had this many years to bond together and grow close since like, for some of them since primary school, some of them since like the beginning of high school. And there's some aspect of, here's the wetness, there's some aspect of like home that's ingrained from like my friends
for sure.
and Hong Kong that I'll never lose. Like Hong Kong will always be my home. Like Cody and like my super close friend group will always be home for me. And it really takes like something astronomical that would break that sort of a friendship. I think it's like more of an eternal bond. Like even if I don't see one of like you guys, hopefully this will never happen for like 10 years. And then we meet again in 10 years. I still feel like we're just going to be as close unless we change a lot.
Yeah.
Which is yet again a potential variable. Like 10 years is a long ass time. We'd be like maybe parents at, oh my God.
That's crazy.
We might be parents at that time. But yeah, I feel very optimistic about our outlook in 10 years, and definitely thanks to a lot of Cody's efforts as well.
You are getting better with reaching out though. I remember
I try. I remember like messaging you once and you're like, oh my God. You were like over the moon because I messaged you just checking up on you.
I know, I was so shocked. It was I think like late February or early March this year, but I opened my phone and Ian had actually texted me first when I was back in the US for uni, and I was just shocked, and I definitely made it a point to bring that up. But yeah, you are getting better.
But yeah, I think we're just gonna finish off on that note. So we're still working out the details regarding our social media, maybe where we're going to be posting this podcast as well, the sort of mediums we're going to use. We're going to confirm all that, and stay tuned for more information regarding that. But Cody and I would like to thank you for listening to this first pilot podcast, and I guess we'll grab a picture with all of you guys soon. And thank you, and bye.
Oh, that's so wet.